The Masked Lover, A Story of Rediscovery. Margaret had spent most of her life alone, content in her routine but longing for companionship. At 68, she met Arthur at a local art class. He was charming, attentive, and seemed like the perfect gentleman. He brought her flowers, listened intently to her stories, and swept her off her feet with his easy humour and thoughtfulness. For the first time in years, Margaret felt seen. He made her feel like the most important person in the world. Her heart, dormant for decades, began to flutter again. After only a few months, they moved in together. She was hopeful for a peaceful, happy chapter in her golden years. But soon, the cracks began to show. Arthur's compliments turned into subtle jabs. "Are you really going to wear that dress? I thought you cared about looking nice." His once thoughtful conversations became opportunities to dominate and belittle. "You don't understand finances, Margaret. Let me handle your pension." Margaret felt confused. Wasn't this the same man who once held her hand and promised to always cherish her? She told herself she was imagining things. After all, Arthur was so kind to everyone else. Her neighbours adored him, and her friends found him charming. But behind closed doors, his mask slipped. Arthur began controlling every aspect of her life. He questioned her spending habits, monitored her phone calls, and slowly isolated her from her small circle of friends. When she tried to confront him, he twisted her words until she felt like she was losing her mind. "You're overreacting, Margaret. I'm just trying to help you. Why are you so ungrateful?" She began doubting her own perceptions. Was she really overreacting? Was she the problem? She felt trapped, her world growing smaller with every passing day. Margaret started hiding the emotional pain, even from herself. The love she once felt for Arthur kept her bound to him, a deep ache in her chest reminding her of the good times. And yet, those moments of kindness seemed fewer and farther between. Her savings dwindled. Arthur insisted on taking control of her accounts, spending money on things she never approved. "It's for us, Margaret," he'd say. But she knew better. The emotional abuse left her questioning her worth. The psychological manipulation made her feel powerless. She was terrified of leaving. Where would she go? Who would believe her? Her friends dismissed her concerns. "Arthur, he's such a sweet man. You're lucky to have him." Margaret began to feel invisible. One sleepless night, she stumbled across a video online about narcissistic abuse. The words resonated deeply. Gaslighting, trauma bond, control. For the first time, she saw her reality reflected in someone else's story. Tears streamed down her face as she realized she wasn't alone, and this wasn't her fault. The realization hit hard but brought clarity. She was being abused, and it wasn't love. It was control masked as affection. Margaret reached out to a domestic abuse hotline the next day, speaking hesitantly, but finding strength in the supportive voice on the other end. They helped her understand her options and create a plan. It wasn't easy. She had to face her fear of the unknown, her doubts, and the societal stigma of leaving a partner at her age. But Margaret knew she deserved freedom, peace, and joy. One morning, while Arthur was out running errands, she packed her essentials, left a note, and fled to a safe house. She blocked his number, found solace in a community of survivors, and started to rebuild her life. For the first time in years, Margaret felt free. The journey wasn't linear, but each step forward brought her closer to rediscovering herself. She found new hobbies, rekindled old friendships, and learned to love the person she saw in the mirror. Margaret's story is one of resilience. She escaped the shadows of abuse, rediscovered her voice, and proved it's never too late to start over. For anyone feeling stuck, Margaret's journey is a reminder. There is hope, there is help, and you are never alone.